We have some minutes from the June 17th meeting. Can I get somebody to move the adoption of those? Councilor Barton, second by Councilor King. All in favor? Carried. So tonight we have a delegation. We have Miranda and others. And then we've also got Alex online, but I'll turn it over to Miranda.
I'm here as a member of the Inter-Community Active Transportation Committee, which is a subcommittee of the North Silcan Trail Society. And we're here to ask for your support for an application that RDCK is hoping to put in on our behalf to move the ICAT project into the next phase. We are referring to the ICAT, this pathway corridor between New Denver and Silverton, not so much as a trail, but a pathway or corridor, greenway, partly because there's been a little bit, let's ahead one slide, a little bit of confusion in the past or kind of some mixed messages about whether the pathway is kind of a recreational adventure scenic trail or whether it's something that is more focused around transportation. And based on what's the explorations and research and discussions that have happened in the past, we've pivoted towards something that's transportation focused. So more like what you see on the right there on your screen, something that's fairly level, direct, highly accessible. This addresses some of the problems with private property concerns, private property owners by staying more sort of adjacent to the highway right of way. And it also serves a broader range of needs. So go ahead, slide. In terms of the needs, I think those have been mounting gradually over the past couple of generations. We've seen improvements to Highway 6, widening, two-laning, more barricades, sightline improvements, and that's increased the speed that traffic is happy traveling at. It's also brought a lot of new traffic through the valley. You know, our tourism, industrial traffic, large vehicles. We've also seen some changes in how long it takes teenagers to get fully licensed. So they're less independent for transportation between the villages. And we've got aging communities here. And we know that seniors are much less likely to be able to or willing to drive. And then we have the pressing imperative, of course, of climate change. And we know that the best information we have suggests that in the RDCK, transportation is about 70% of our carbon footprint here. So moving ahead, not only do I think that the need is increasing here, but I think we need this kind of infrastructure more than a lot of municipalities that are getting it. And that's because there really are no other alternatives. Unlike Kelowna, Castlegar, or Salmon Arm, Vancouver, we don't have sidewalks beside that stretch of highway. We don't have a sort of alternate back road that people can travel along. We don't have local public transit, taxis, paratransit, any of those things. So this is something we really need. There's very much resounding appreciation for the need in the community. When we first took on this project, we did a survey and got really excellent buy-in from people, 312 responses, and that's permanent and part-time residents, 51 of them from Silverton, and you don't see this level of agreement from people these days on anything. This is pretty exceptional. Yeah, like only 1% not supportive of this. And included in the report that was circulated were some testimonials and personal statements. I think that it's no secret, like this really affects people in this community, in adjacent communities. It changes their lives. It affects the way businesses can hire. It affects the kind of work people can take on and how they can connect with people in what really is two neighborhoods in one larger community, even though they're legally distinct municipalities. So, and let's just skip ahead a couple of slides. You as a municipality have recognized the importance of this. It's in your old OCP, and I expect that it'll probably be at least as emphatically stated in your updated one. Yeah, so this for the past year and a half, the ICAT committee has been working in conjunction with Alex Leffelar, who's been leading the rural mobility citizens advisory council. I believe I got that right. I've only attended about 10 meetings. I should know by now. Yeah, so we've been put in touch with a lot of people, had meetings facilitated. We've met with the Ministry of Transportation and Transit, regional and provincial levels, regional parks, the area H director, local stakeholders, and local politicians. We've also procured some LiDAR data, which is like, the 3D scanning. We've been able to get that processed. We've got a couple of quotes from some and work outlines from a couple of active transportation firms that they put together for us to talk about, like, what would the next stage of this look like? What would it involve? And all of that has led to where we're at with this last bullet point on the next slide. If we can just move ahead, that the RDCK board has recently agreed to apply to CBT, to their brand new active transportation funding stream on behalf of the North Silverton Trail Society in order to complete the next phase of this project. Pass it over to Elaine now.
Thank you, Miranda. Hi, I'm Elaine Pura. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a resident of Silverton. And just so Miranda doesn't have to do the whole presentation, but I'm going to talk about what we hope will happen now and what the future phases of the project will be or would be. And Miranda's really been focused on and very much leading what's taken place to date, which has been a lot of work. So you can see in this slide, phase 1, we're calling it, is everything that's happened up to now. And phase 2 is the recommended next steps, which is a feasibility study and the preliminary design of what the active transportation corridor could or options for should look like. Phase 3 and 4 would come after that and would be informed by phase 2, but they're not what we're talking about today. We need to do phase 2 before we can talk about things like questions for just which side of the road is it going to be on. These are the things that phase 2 needs to figure out. Next slide. So why is it important that we get phase 2 completed? There's a number of reasons. One is that many of the larger pots of government and institution funding that would fund the infrastructure, because this is not something we could do as a community. We can't just raise the money from our community to fund a multi-million-dollar or $1 million project. But the BC government has had funding in the past for active transportation. It's on hold right now while they look at their Clean BC review, and they're going to, we expect that will open up again. Government of Canada has also had active transportation funding. CBT does and still will, we hope, have funding, including to build infrastructure, and the UBCM as well has had funding in the past. A lot of these are closed right now, but we want to be ready or recommend that our communities be ready should that open up again. Also with Ministry of Transportation, when they're doing rock scaling repairs, repaving, realigning the road, the BC cycling policy states that they need to consider cycling when they, like cycling as in cyclists, when they are either building a new highway or redoing a highway, a BC highway. So that includes us. So if we're ready with phase 2 completed, that can inform when they do come around to repave or to work further on the link between our two communities. Private property transitions, so sales as well as subdividing, other things could provide opportunities that we'd like to be ready for. And of course, with utility transmission line changes, when they're changing or moving poles, if they have something to already take into consideration, it would inform placement of those poles. Next slide. So what is phase 2? What does it look like when it happens? So it would be, first of all, to look at all the work that Miranda's described, everything that's been done to date, and take that into consideration. There would be stakeholder engagement, public, private landowners, Indigenous, government, each informing as well as consulting, as well as collaborating with those key stakeholders. And that includes government and agencies, and of course includes local government as well. They would then develop this phase would develop and analyze what the different corridor options are, taking into consideration safety, environmental conditions, constructability. Can you even do that? Land ownership, right of way, complexity, long-term maintenance requirements, and of course, all of the stakeholder input. Then that would be narrowed down to the best option or set of options, and go through a refinement and begin a preliminary engineering design and drawings of what that would look like, and then some preliminary cost estimates and other financial analysis, including cost benefit analysis for the project. Who does this? It's not you. It's not the ICAT committee of the North Slope Trail Society. No, it would be led by transportation engineering consultants. This is, and we'll see in the budget as has been put together by the RDCK, and that has been informed by some quotes that have been sought from engineering firms already. And then that project would be oversaw or supported by the RDCK in collaboration with the North Slope Trail Society. But it would be an engineering team leading this phase of the project. This phase does not include detailed design and doesn't include the actual construction, of course, itself. So next phase budget, it would be, the estimation right now is approximately $80,000, which would include support, some staff support from the RDCK. We already have approved, coming from Alex's good work and report on this, $10,000 committed from the RDCK, as well as a $1,300 pledge from the Trail Society. Today, we're here asking the village of Silverton if you would be able to provide your support, both in terms of a letter of support as well as a contribution. The more would be better, of course, but we also recognize that our villages have limited ability to contribute large amounts towards the $80,000. The balance would be of the RDCK, and Alex and his team would put together with the funding that we have collected an application for an active transportation grant to CBT. Ideally, the other funds, the contributions would come to 50%, but they've indicated that they are flexible on that, realizing it may be difficult for us to raise the $40,000. So, to wrap up, what we're looking for today and requesting is a letter of support for this project for phase 2, as well as a financial contribution of $2,500. We'll be making the same ask next week to New Denver. We recommend that if you are interested as a village, I know I am as someone who lives here, in this project going forward, that by indicating your support, both financially and as well as with a letter of support, it shows that you're in the game and you have a voice in the decisions that are made moving forward and what this ends up looking like. The other question may be, why go? Well, there's a lot of money to spend on something. What if we don't find a solution? What if there is no best option moving forward, or we can't find the money to move it forward into phase 3 and phase 4? We don't know that there isn't a best option or that there isn't a good way forward if we don't try to do this. Otherwise, it's based on assumptions and past work, and it's time to move forward on something that's so important for our communities. So,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions, Councilor?
Yeah, I have a question. If you go back one slide, Elaine, that slide that we're going back to says that there's $10,000 committed by RDC.
Yeah.
Oh, swell. And then Alex posted in the chat that there's 10,000 committed by Walter Popoff, Area H. Are those two separate?
No,
Yeah.
that's the same
That's-
10,000.
yeah.
That's my understanding. And I just want to clarify for the Valley Voice that are not here anymore, that the $1,300 pledge from the Trail Society is not confirmed yet because we haven't had a board meeting pass it yet. Okay. It's up.
Just before we go on any further, Brian, can I just confirm we still have you? We've lost the power here.
Yep. You guys are
Okay.
coming
Oh, okay,
along
maybe
clear.
we
I
still
do have a
have
couple questions.
Okay, just finish with Councillor Main and I'll turn it over to you.
That's, yeah,
Good.
I got my answer.
Okay, so Councillor Mills, go ahead.
Yep, thank you for the presentation. I thought it was great. I'm in favor of a trail for sure. I'm just wondering, is it any thought of how we're gonna keep it open in the winter? Is it a seasonal trail?
That's something that would be part of phase two. Yeah, that there's, we don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll very much depend on what the transportation engineers come up with.
Yeah.
Ideally, we'd love a 4-season trail, and it's not very
Right.
often that there's a lot of snow there, but it sometimes happens.
Okay, and I'd definitely suggest that CBT being flexible going after that. That'd be great.
Mhm.
Over and above
Councilor
the
Brown,
50%.
Yeah, just wondering, is this mostly you're figuring following the highway all the way? Or is there any places we're going to be deviating?
I really don't know at this point. There was a study done in 2011 that said basically something that more or less follows the highway grade makes the most sense. And it certainly keeps the accessibility high
Yeah,
because it's relatively level. Yeah. I mean, anything here is going to be scenic, right? It doesn't necessarily have to dip down to the lake to do that.
any further questions for the delegation?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Great
Thanks.
presentation.
And you're welcome to stay, but I don't blame you if you want to go. It's too nice outside, I get it. Thank you. Okay, on to the next one, we have the RDCK Active Transportation Grant application. Before we go into the motion, we can have a little bit of discussion on this because they are looking for a contribution. So what is council's thoughts on this? Councilor May.
I think it would be a good move to contribute to this, and we probably could use some of our RDCK community development funds toward it, so that it wouldn't, it's not going to mess up our budgeting. And 2,500 is, I have no problem.
Councilor Mills, we'll go with Councilor Mills and I'll go back to you. Councilor Mills, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, a letter of support for sure. And as long as we can afford it and not putting any more tax burdens on the taxpayers at all, then yeah, I'm okay with it.
And Councilor Roden?
that's basically what I was gonna say, definitely a letter of support, but if we have to add any more to the taxpayers, I would rather shorten that 2,500. If it can come out of where Leah's saying, then I guess, yeah, we'll go ahead, go with the 25, but I kind of don't want to put too much more. We put a lot on the taxpayers this year.
Can I just ask a question to their CAO before? I see the RDCK has increased the grant. Didn't we get a note saying that he contributed 5,000? So now he's contributing to 10. Okay, that's all I wanted to know. Okay. Go ahead, Councilor May.
I would like to propose an amendment to the motion that says and authorizes a contribution of $2,500 for the project to be taken from community development.
I'm gonna have to come back for a council resolution to access community development funds. So I
Okay.
take it as direction at this point,
Okay,
but I'm gonna need to.
You have to do it as a
application
separate-
For,
yeah, okay.
you have to do that.
Okay, so I just want to be clear that the intention is to use funds that already exist that we have not previously accessed.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor for 2,500. Do we have somebody to second? Councilor Barton? Any discussion? No discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay. Go on to the next. We have correspondence for information. Did anybody want to pull any of that?
Let me get back into that screen.
I'll start. I have a question for the CAO on this one. I see that for the broadband internet, they're actually digging. Are they not I thought they weren't doing that.
I don't think that they're digging here. I
Okay.
think that they have a generic
Oh,
template that they're using for their permissions. And in this location, I've been told that they're doing everything aerially rather than underground. But
okay.
I think we're still early days. I think that they're trying to figure out, you know, they want all of these letters in place before they can
Come along and do
go
it.
and do the contracts and what have you. So
Absolutely.
I'm conflicted about, the excitement of doing it aerially, having just had a power outage. But I also have to say that TELUS doesn't have the frequency of outages that BC Hydro has.
Yeah.
So I think there's, it's vulnerable.
yeah, I think that the big difference is the distance that they're covering. So the point of presence is located right beside the village office, so it would have to be an interruption within the municipal boundaries. And most of the power outages that we've had do not originate within Silverton's municipal
True, very
boundaries.
true.
They originate somewhere
Just
upstream.
Just so, because ours came back on.
Yeah,
I would guess they don't have power.
yeah. So I think that that's a fair consideration. And at this point, I've been told that it's aerially,
Yeah.
but
And I leave it for
Secondhand
them
information.
to make
Yeah.
the final decisions. But I just want to bring that forward.
yeah, and I do have something else to add about this. I have been in contact with Columbia Basin Trust, Columbia Basin Broadband Corporation, trying to figure out, I understand that the grant funding only targets residences and they've managed to sneak a couple of community facilities in there. But the letters are for the arena and the memorial hall. So the grant funding does not include connecting the village office, the gallery, the fire hall, the campground, or the pump houses. So I'm going to look into what the cost would be for us to have those connections done at our cost, because I understand that there are limits to what the grants will cover. But I think that, you know, we'll see what the numbers say, but there may be some, it might be important for the village to take advantage of the contractors while they're on site.
Yeah.
In order to make sure that all of those facilities do get connected so that we have more options down the road, because who knows what we're gonna have for an IS.
Council meetings at people's houses.
So with that, yeah, are they they're bringing it to everybody's property line? And then if you want it, then they connect it. So, okay, so even if after you decided, well, I noticed that, yeah, then you have to pay it yourself. But so it's not like you'd have to then get them to bring the line all the way from wherever to your house first, or your property line, and pay for that too.
I don't know how it works. Like, I don't know
Right.
whether they calculate the capacity on the line. Like, I don't know if it behaves like
Oh.
water or more like electricity, because
Yeah,
the electricity, it doesn't seem to be a problem to get a lot into a small cable.
yeah,
Water, we sometimes run into problems with that.
yeah.
So I don't have that kind of technical information. But I think at this point, I'm going to sign and return the agreement and accept whatever connections they will do at their cost.
Yeah.
And look into what other connections. we can
And so does each homeowner need to sign a consent form? Is that, I was reading that right?
And I imagine they'll be reaching out to individuals. Yeah.
Yeah, and so my understanding is that there is sort of a first phase where they mail everything out to people or use the contact information that they have.
Okay.
And then they are, I believe, going to try and follow up. But again, they're in a tricky spot because they don't have access to people's mailing addresses and personal information.
Yeah,
So they can do a mail drop, but because they're not considered a government entity, I think that if you have the no junk mail sticker on your mailbox, you won't
it's
get
gonna,
one.
yeah,
Whereas if the municipality does a mail drop, we get everybody stickers or not. So there may be some challenges, so I'm just adding that to the discussion so that if you're talking to people in the community, I think that this is it's a low risk agreement to make. It doesn't require you to subscribe to whatever service provider ends up using this line, it just means that it's gonna be installed and available at somebody else's cost.
I know if they put it out, like mail it occupant or whatever on it, a lot of those go into the garbage. I know, cause I end up, when I'm doing my paper route, I find a lot of so-called recycling in on top of my newspapers and my boxes.
Yeah.
And even when I write dirty notes on there, after the big light comes on, it doesn't change. But anyway, yeah, so it's tough that they don't have, can't get everybody's address, I understand.
Well, that's a job for council. When we hear that they're coming around, we push it out there to everybody and get the word around.
Yeah, good idea, yeah.
Okay, is there any other correspondence that anybody would like to pull? Okay, on to council reports. My council report's there. I won't go into any detail unless anybody's got questions. Council Broughton.
My only comment when I read the reports is, thank God I didn't end up mayor.
But you're gonna tell me they were too long.
No, they're very informative. I like it. But yeah, when I look at all the meetings and stuff, the town would have been in much worse shape right now than you've got us to. So thank you. for
One
all
thing I
that.
was gonna mention on there is, I took part in a BC road safety strategy engagement session. If anybody has any ideas or wants to give any input, do that before August 31st. They're looking for everybody. I'm gonna forward it on to Alex and Miranda to make sure that they have given their input. But if council has any ideas or input. Other than that, I have nothing else to say. So we go on to Council Broughton.
Unfortunately, it turns out we had the water thing meeting apparently. I got the notification had come in fairly late Friday. I didn't notice till Monday. And then when I tried to, I was trying to log into my computer, doing things with it. The H quit working, and that's part of my password.
Oh, no.
But when I brought it to the office yesterday to see if they could fix it up,
It worked.
it worked. Of course, and we tried to start it when I dropped it off with Trish, and it didn't. So, yeah, I didn't get to respond that by the time I got it, I wasn't able to take the time off to come to that early meeting. So I'm sorry for that, and I will try to get hold of them. Well, they send us the minutes of that, so I'll find out.
They sent you the minutes of that?
Well, they not of the recent one, but the last one.
Because they told us we weren't allowed to see those minutes in the RDCK meeting. This is why I'm kind of curious as to.
I received
Well,
a copy,
Okay.
yeah, and they sent it to the members.
the members.
That was curious.
Yeah, you
Okay.
can-
I was gonna look into that one.
Yeah, so I'll hopefully get the minutes from that meeting too and get back on track.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Councillor Mean.
I have no report, except that my garden is doing really well.
Wonderful. Councillor Mills.
Yeah, I read Mayor Gordon's report, thought it was good. I had a question, but I forgot it, but must not have been that important. So it was a good
You're not
report.
that
Yeah, I'm old. I participated at the Canada Day Parade, and the community club did an awesome job again this year.
Yes.
I've heard lots of
Great,
good.
thank you. Okay, on to the finance reports. We have the Q2 finance highlights. Is there any comments or questions for staff? Councillor Mean.
I really liked having this report and seeing it laid out that way. It's very clear, very understandable, and I feel like it gives me a much better sense of how things actually operate. Which means that if people have questions, I have something I can refer to. So kudos on this.
Okay.
And we'll pass that along.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Councillor Burton, go ahead.
I'm just wondering what the collection for others means that.
The other revenue?
Those
Oh,
are the taxes for police, school, hospital.
Oh, okay.
district. So we get it and we
And
give
then
it
we
away.
redistribute it.
It just
Okay,
goes in and out.
right. Okay.
Any further questions on the finance highlights? No? Okay, we don't need to do anything for that? No. Okay. So we're on to the bylaws. We have permissive tax exemption bylaw number 560/2026. We have a motion that permissive tax exemption bylaw number 560/2026 be given a first, second, and third reading. Does somebody want to move that motion? Councillor Mills or Councillor Main, seconded by Councillor Broughton. Any discussion? No discussion? All in favor? Carried. So we have the civic addressing bylaw number 561/2026. We have a motion that the civic addressing bylaw 561/2026 be given the first, second, and third reading. Somebody move that? Councillor Main, seconded by Councillor Broughton. Any discussion?
I was trying to find that where that page had all those
All the numbers.
address, yeah.
Yeah, so what that map is that shows all of the possible house number assignments in Silverton. Not all of them are active, but we skip numbers where, like where there's no building yet.
Yeah.
So that we have a plan, so that if somebody does develop a lot, we don't have to make decisions or think about it. We just go to the bylaw and choose the number that is written beside it, and there is your house number and your street address. So some of the big changes, we got rid of the second Hume Lane that was north of the creek because there were two. So this is all being driven by the Next Generation 911 program to update addressing across the province and make sure that it's consistent and logical and makes it easier for emergency responders in the event that their services are needed to find the appropriate location.
Dude, I was a little worried that there's like 13 different parcels that's showing. I don't want that many neighbors.
Councillor Main, go ahead.
So this is kind of hypothetical. Although I see that there's someone down the lane from me who is trying to develop their property, and their address would be on Lake Avenue. Their septic field, their septic installation indicates that the house is going to actually be sitting on the lane.
Yeah.
So then we have, at least currently, a prohibition against building an accessory building in front of the main building. So these the little things are going to crop up, and I just wanted
I think
everyone to be aware of it.
I think that unless council feels strongly that regulation about citing accessory buildings is key to the character of Silverton, that is definitely something that does not need to be continued as we amend the zoning bylaw next. So I think that that's a
Okay.
fair thing. And because we have the numbers on the lane side as well as on the street side, we have some discretion.
Some discretion,
About
yeah.
we can choose, because the goal is to make it easy for
Yeah.
emergency responders to find the house.
No,
That's the goal. So we're going to, if access to the house is more readily available through the lane, we can give them an address that's a lane-based address. If there's a
Yeah.
reason that they couldn't get there from the street. So we do have that option.
okay.
Yeah, and you'll see like on the map, there are a number of parcels that we have some choice
Yeah,
where we could decide about the number. Whether it's going from the street to the lane, or whether it's choosing, corner parcels, you have some options. Sometimes where there's multiple lots that have been consolidated into a single parcel, the numbering doesn't quite match what I would have assigned to a house in that location, but it's within the range
yeah,
and it's logical. And so we
okay.
sort of balance okay, the goal is to make emergency response reliable. We balance that with, the goal is not to change every address in the village of Silverton, because that's going to cause it.
No, don't do that.
we sort of balance those
Yeah.
two,
Okay.
competing priorities, and I think that there is, the right amount of flexibility that's built into
Okay.
this solution.
I'm glad to hear that there's some flexibility about those other aspects of it.
Any further comments, questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay, on to the OCP bylaw 562/2026. We have you want to do them all separate?
I think that for this one, it might make sense to let staff introduce the bylaw.
Okay.
And do a little bit of a talking through it, because it's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
And then I think the goal at the end of the discussion would be to give first reading to the bylaw, because that doesn't really bind us in any way. If there are changes that council wants to see, that can still be done.
Yeah.
And then also to set the date for the public hearing, just so that we can confirm timelines for advertising.
So I will turn it over to Ian.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't really have a formal presentation prepared, but happy to answer any questions. We've done a lot of work on the bylaw of the ACP since you last saw it, tweaking and appreciate your input from the meeting that we had last month. And of course, all the public information that we've received from the survey and the public meeting. So I think what we've got here is pretty close to, if not the final version of the official community plan, with maybe a few tweaks still to come. But the goal is to have the plan obviously presented tonight, do a second reading at the beginning of August, at the August 12th meeting, where we might have some minor changes in there before it goes to public hearing. So the public hearing is the big deal, where of course the public gets a chance to provide their input, their final input on the official community plan. And then once that process is done, then basically council has to make the decision on whether to adopt the plan as it is or kind of send it back to the drawing board. So the plan has some of the elements of previous 2010 version, but a lot of updates, of course, related to how things have changed since then. It's surprising after 15, 16 years how much the direction of the community has changed. The impetus is for housing and to encourage housing. We've already covered that the housing needs report is a little bit unrealistic for Silverton, but we have to acknowledge it anyway as per the provincial legislation. But it certainly provides some flexibility in there that people can have a secondary suite or carriage house and be able to either provide additional housing for workers or for family, or earn a little bit of extra income if they want to have that option, and servicing and support it. So the first sections of the OCP talk about the background and the process that we've gone through. This is all a requirement under the Local Government Act of how you do official community plans. You have to say, how do we get here, basically? And that's been covered off very nicely. And then section 3 is when we start getting into the broader things. So we start off really broad with the community vision, and then it narrows down into very specific policies and guidelines that we want to follow over the next 10-year to 20-year timeframe. So think about the community vision. Silverton will be a vibrant and unique village with a focus on being a year-round tourism and business-friendly community, able to support citizens of all ages with a mixture of housing types, green spaces, safe roads, and sustainable economic development opportunities. So again, that's tweaked a little bit since the last time you saw it, thanks to your input. And then we have the guiding principles, which are still some good overarching things. And one of the new things in the OCP is the community character guidelines. And this was a really nice addition. I can't take credit for it myself. And I wasn't sure whether to include it or not, because I thought, well, is it too prescriptive? And maybe you should go in the zoning. But no, this is actually really good kind of visionary things of how you want the character of the community to really carry forward in future planning decisions, and not just for this council, but for future councils down the road as well. So that's on page 95 of the agenda, or 11 to 50 of the official community plan. So considering, when we do get a new development application coming in, these are some things that can be reflected on, whether it be staff that are reviewing the application or council reviewing an application for rezoning or a variance and so on, to come back to these as kind of the guiding principles of what we see. Then moving on from there into some of the history of the town, again, coming back to how we got here to this official community plan. Getting into some characteristics that we need to consider in planning, such as hazards, so the slope and floodplain and so on. And the background on the community's demographics, population changes, population decline over recent years, but an outlook that things will probably be increasing in the near future, at least modestly. And then the local economy and focusing on year-round aspects and what's sustaining, driving the local economy, including aggregate mineral resources, year-round tourism, and those kinds of opportunities that we discussed at the last meeting are now in there. Section 3.9 on page 21 of the plan, we have transportation and servicing, just expanding on our utilities and services that the municipality provides to its residents. And then the big section, section 4, talking about our goals, objectives, and targets. And this is where we, again, start narrowing down into some of the more specific things that we want to see in the community, growth management, energy and climate change, addressing the housing needs assessment and its recommendations for housing targets over the years. And again, even those housing targets seem quite high, it also talks about making sure there's a variety of types of housing that's available. So that's another important thing that we want to.
The housing section, and I understand that there are certain requirements that we have to pretend to meet for the province, but I think I would like to see a slightly stronger statement of recognition that those targets are unrealistic. Because for somebody who doesn't know the community, who's interested in finding out about it, and they read that and go 200 houses over the next 10 years, I think it's kind of off-putting unnecessarily. It's just, it doesn't match the reality on the ground.
Mhm.
And I just would like to see a slightly stronger statement about that.
Agree, and I think that the example that the folks from UBCM have been running with is that Silverton's coming up on its 100th year. We've managed to put 148 homes into place in the first 100 years. And they would like to see 208 new ones
In 10
the next,
years.
yeah,
Yeah.
the next 50, right?
Yeah.
It's just a,
Yeah, but we know that, but for somebody who's not familiar with everything.
I answered that through the chair. So there is a sentence in there. However, the province acknowledged that the models used in calculating the housing needs reports are designed for larger population centers and do not necessarily reflect the realities of very small communities.
Yes, I would like to see a stronger statement than that, or
Okay.
follow up, like, they absolutely do not represent the reality in Silverton.
Okay.
Just something a little strong would make me happy.
Okay, yep. That input. All right. Then on to section 5. We get into land use plan and designating our land uses of residential, of course, commercial, public, institutional, and industrial, and also development permit areas. And this was a big change that we made here, taking more of the specifics of the development permit areas out of the OCP, and we're going to put them into zoning to make them a bit easier to manage. So you'll see that section is cut back quite a bit. Then getting into the individual use types. So we have the residential housing strategy, policies for housing spectrum. We know, for example, that it is technically feasible that there could be hundreds of units built in the village, but that's not going to happen. We do have to just acknowledge that growth can be accommodated.
Are we into a 20-story tower around here? Would that be okay? Because that's not the way we're gonna get that kind of thing.
No, we have rules on that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Contained sewage treatment.
That's right.
And that will be specified in the zoning, maximum building heights and then those kinds of things. So no 20-story towers are planned at this time. Then getting into commercial and environmental and climate natural hazards. So talking about climate adaptation. And again, that's one of the things that's changed in the past 15 years since the previous version. So I won't dwell on any of these particular items unless you have any questions. We talked about asset management and our infrastructure, which is always a work in progress. And going down to section 10, transportation, traffic and active transportation. And we do of course have in there the Denver to Silverton Trail as one of the objectives to be pursued. Doesn't mean we have to, anything that's in here doesn't mean we have to do it, but if it's in the OCP, it empowers the village and council to be able to do that and put that into their strategic plan and make those decisions. Section 11 on heritage and cultural resources. This is an area where there again could be more work done in the zoning bylaw or through a separate policy on what kind of heritage design characteristics we want to see in development permit areas. And then our 12 are parks and recreation and community facilities. And then section 13, as I mentioned, development permit areas, that we've cut this back quite a bit. We've designated what the development permit areas are and what the objectives are, and that's the minimum requirement of the Local Government Act. We have to state what the DPAs are going to be in the OCP, but the details can all go into the zoning bylaw to make that so that everything is in there as far as, you know, what can you build, how big can it be, what's the setbacks, and that kind of stuff can all be put into that technical document. So there's 3 different types, and based on feedback from the previous meeting, the Lakefront and Riparian Protection DPA, we looked at a very more restrictive 10-meter setback, which is really close to the river and the creek, the creek and the lake, and then 30 meters, which is a sort of a planning boundary where we need to look at is, are there going to be any significant environmental impacts to the development that is being proposed at that time? And then we get into some of the maps of land uses and where the DPAs are, slope hazard and flooding, public amenities, and the aerial imagery, and the infrastructure water system. So this also enables future upgrades and continued asset management for infrastructure. So that's it in a nutshell.
Councilor Dorman, go ahead.
So it's showing here my whole property in green. Would that, like if my house burns down or whatever, I can still build in that area if it's housing, or we're just worrying about commercial or industrial and stuff? We're not worrying housing?
So sorry, Green, this is on the development permit map?
Yeah, I live right beside the campground, lakefront campground. So,
Yeah, and my apologies, this map is actually the old version of the map. It doesn't show that 10 and 30-meter setback that we showed at the last meeting, so I will need to swap that out. So if it's right on the lakefront, then it might be within the 10-meter setback, and it doesn't mean that you can't rebuild something that's already there, but there might be some additional steps to go through just for environmental mitigation. So
we're beyond the 10-meter.
Yeah.
But, or most of my property is, I don't know.
Yep. So if it was a major construction, then there might be a requirement for an environmental assessment, just to make sure that there's no negative impacts. But
just a house.
Yeah, and again, if it's a rebuild, then
we've got room there technically to split it into 3 pieces, which my kids ever want to, they go ahead. They're dying on it the way it is. But yeah, I just, you know, they probably would want to know in advance if there's ever going to be a problem if they decide they want to move back here. So
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's not meant to, especially that 30-meter setback is not meant to prevent development in the area. It's just meant to make sure it's not going to cause any problems down the road with any erosion and environmental damage, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Any further questions?
Just a comment. I think it's done a really good job. Kudos to the team that did this. And, you know, aside from the housing piece, I'm quite satisfied with the direction that this is going. I did read it through
Awesome.
And found it much more readable than the previous OCP that I also was involved with. It was how I got involved in Silverton politics.
Okay.
So yeah, good job.
Thank you.
And Brian, do you have any questions, comments?
Yep, I'm echoing what Councilor Main said. I don't want to give the government any credibility on our OCP regarding what they're telling us we need for housing, because it doesn't make any sense. So why even mention it? And as far as being business friendly, that includes all businesses, I'm assuming. logging, mining, the rest of it. It's just a broad term.
Yep.
That's it. All good.
Any further comments, questions on the OCP? No. I want to echo it too. Excellent. This is a long time coming. I remember starting this process back in 2019, I think it was, and then it just fell off the table. So it's good to see it done, or close to being done anyway. So we have a motion on the table.
Not yet, we need a motion.
We need a motion. Yep. So we have the OCP bylaw number 562, 2026 be read a first time. Can I get somebody to move that? Councillor Broughton, seconded by Councillor Main. Any further questions, comments? All in favor? Carried. So next we have a motion that the public hearing regarding the OCP bylaw be scheduled for 7 p.m. on Wednesday, August 19th, 2026 at the Silverton Memorial Hall. Can I get somebody to move that? Councillor Main, seconded by Councillor Mills, because he keeps raising his hand. Any further comments or questions? Everybody able to make it that day?
So,
At 7 PM, yeah, that shouldn't be any problems for me.
Okay. So all in favor? Carried. So up next, we have public input period. Is there anybody online that has any comments or questions for council? Last call for online. Anybody have any comments or questions? Okay, at this time, I would like to move a motion that we will be excluding the public from the meeting. Councillor Main, seconded by Councillor Broughton. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.